On December 26, 1776 AD, the Continental Army, led by General George Washington, defeated the Hessians at the Battle of Trenton. The town of Trenton, New Jersey, was occupied by 4 regiments of Hessian soldiers led by Colonel Johann Rall. The 1,500 mercenaries had been stationed in Trenton since December 14th. On Christmas night, Washington led his 2,500 soldiers across the Delaware River, but the bad weather delayed the attack on Trenton for a few hours. Washington wanted to attack the Hessians at dawn, but the bad weather delayed his original plans, and the frigid, snowy conditions also took a toll on his soldiers. Many were poorly equipped to fight in the snow. Some of the soldiers wore strips of cloth wrapped around their feet because they didn't have any boots or shoes. A few of his troops died from the exposure, and others' feet bled from the cold. One of his generals, John Sullivan, told him that the weather was dampening their gunpowder. Washington replied, "Tell General Sullivan to use the bayonet. I am resolved to take Trenton." Despite warnings from American deserters, loyalists, and an early morning attack on a Hessian outpost, Colonel Rall did not believe Washington would attack Trenton. The Continental Army marched into Trenton at 8 a.m. and began firing. They were led into battle by Washington and his 2,500 soldiers that were split into several formations to prevent the Hessians from leaving the town. The surprised Hessians were being peppered with gunfire and incoming artillery from all directions. It was a chaotic scene as Colonel Rall tried to rally his soldiers and return cannon fire, but as soon as they were able to man their guns, their artillery was knocked out by return volleys from the American patriots. The Continental Army started to use house-to-house fighting tactics along with hit-and-run firefights against the bewildered Hessians. Colonel Rall continued to rally his soldiers and tried to organize a strategic breakout from Trenton and retreat en masse from the town by trying to break through the Americans' attack lines, but failed. He was gravely wounded during the failed retreat after being shot twice in the side. The Hessians surrendered after a majority of them were caught retreating unarmed into a nearby orchard. After a formal surrender was set up by the dying Colonel Rall, Washington told a young subordinate, "This is a glorious day for our country." Washington and his soldiers rounded up all of the Hessian prisoners along with all of their ammunition, supplies, and headed back to Pennsylvania around noon. 900 Hessians were taken as PO.W.s. They had 83 wounded and 22 were killed in the battle. The Patriots had 5 wounded soldiers and 2 others that were killed during the march to Trenton. Colonel Rall died the next day in a nearby home from the wounds he suffered in the battle. The victory at Trenton would motivate the Continental Army and the Patriots after losing the New York region a few weeks earlier. Many more recruits would join the army, and Washington would lead his soldiers into victory a week later at the Battle of Assunpink Creek, and the next day at the Battle of Princeton.